Do you ever wonder how the guy who gave us the laws of motion and gravity actually made a living? We talk about Isaac Newton like he was some kind of ancient, otherworldly sage, a man of pure thought detached from the mundane realities of life. But even the greatest minds have to eat, pay for their ink, and heat their homes. So, let's peel back the curtain on the life of Sir Isaac Newton and discover the surprising ways he became, for his time, an incredibly wealthy man. Most of us think of Newton as the Cambridge professor, the isolated genius in his study. And that's true, for a long part of his life. For nearly 30 years, from the 1660s until the 1690s, Newton was a fellow at Trinity College, Cambridge. His income during this period came primarily from his position as Lucasian Professor of Mathematics. This was a prestigious title, but it wasn't a ticket to immense wealth. The salary was decent, enough to live comfortably, but not enough to fund the kind of lavish lifestyle we might associate with a man of his stature. During this period, Newton's wealth was built not on a salary, but on something far more fundamental to his identity, his intellectual property. Now, this wasn't like modern-day patent law or copyright. The concept was much more fluid. His most famous work, the Principia Mathematica, wasn't a commercial bestseller in the way we think of a book today. The first edition was published in 1687, and it was a dense, complex work aimed at a very specific, scholarly audience. The print run was small, and the profits, while present, weren't life-changing. His real moneymaker was his reputation. His reputation, built on his groundbreaking work in mathematics and physics, gave him access to a network of wealthy patrons and influential figures. These weren't just admirers, they were a source of potential financial support. Men like the astronomer Edmund Halley, who financed the Principia's publication when the Royal Society couldn't, played a crucial role. This patronage system was a key part of how intellectuals and artists survived in that era. It was a symbiotic relationship. The patron gained prestige by associating with a great mind, and the genius gained the financial freedom to continue their work. But let's be honest, this academic life, while intellectually fulfilling, wasn't the source of Newton's vast fortune. The real pivot in his financial life came in 1696, when he left Cambridge and moved to London. This wasn't a retirement, it was a career change of monumental proportions. At the age of 53, Newton became the Warden of the Royal Mint. This appointment was a political one, secured for him by his friend and fellow intellectual, Charles Montague, who was then the Chancellor of the Exchequer. The role of warden was supposed to be a sort of sinecure, a high-status job with little actual work, meant for political allies. But they didn't know Isaac Newton. He approached the job with the same obsessive, rigorous intensity he applied to his scientific research. The late 17th century was a period of immense financial upheaval in England. Counterfeiting was rampant, and the nation's currency was in a state of crisis. The primary coins were silver, and the practice of clipping, shaving off small amounts of metal from the edges of the coins, was widespread. The government's solution was the Great Recoinage, a massive, expensive, and logistically complex project to replace all the clipped and debased coins with new, milled ones. Newton, as warden, took this task head-on. He wasn't content to simply oversee the process, he became a hands-on, relentless investigator. He went undercover, posing as a commoner in London's taverns and slums, gathering intelligence on counterfeiters. He used his scientific mind to devise new, more secure methods of coining and to analyze the fraudulent practices. He personally interrogated suspects and prepared evidence for trial. He was, in effect, the 17th century equivalent of a financial detective. His work was incredibly successful. He was instrumental in bringing some of the most notorious counterfeiters of the time to justice, including the infamous William Chaloner. He was a ruthless prosecutor, determined to stamp out the corruption that was undermining the nation's economy. His efforts saved the British economy from potential collapse and cemented his reputation not just as a great scientist, but as a brilliant and effective public servant. This is where the money really starts to come in. His salary as warden was substantial, but the real financial boom came from the system of fees and payments. As a government official, Newton was entitled to a portion of the fines levied on counterfeiters and a share of the profits from the recoinage process. The job was a huge upgrade from his Cambridge professorship, financially and socially. His success as warden led to his promotion in 1699 to the highest position at the Mint, Master of the Mint. This was a truly lucrative position. As master, he was responsible for all the operations of the mint, from procuring the metal to ensuring the quality and quantity of the coins produced. His salary was even higher, and he was entitled to a percentage of the profits on the minting of coins. The more coins the Royal Mint produced, the more money Newton made. And during a period of massive economic growth and expansion for the British Empire, the Mint was a very busy place. Newton held this position for the rest of his life, for nearly 30 years. He was the master of the Mint, not just a scientist on the side. He leveraged his scientific knowledge to improve the efficiency and quality of the minting process, devising new alloys and more precise methods of production. He was a kind of proto-industrialist, applying his genius for measurement and precision to a practical, money-making enterprise. His salary and the profits from his position made him a very wealthy man. By the time of his death in 1727, his estate was valued at over £32,000. To put that in perspective, a skilled tradesman in London at the time might earn £50 a year. Newton's fortune was equivalent to what a skilled tradesman would make in over 600 years. He was a millionaire by the standards of his time. But that's not the whole story. Newton was not just a recipient of a salary and fees. He was also a very active investor. He wasn't a flamboyant speculator, but he was a keen observer of the financial world. He invested his growing fortune in government bonds and the burgeoning stock market. He was a shrewd and methodical investor, applying his logical, mathematical mind to the world of finance. However, even the greatest minds can be caught up in a bubble. The most famous example of Newton's financial life is his disastrous involvement in the South Sea Bubble of 1720. The South Sea Company was a joint stock company granted a monopoly on trade with South America. Its stock price soared to unsustainable heights on a wave of speculation, and everyone, from the common folk to the aristocracy, wanted a piece of the action. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.